today, it's the first time we look at HyDraw Library Manager. It's not the first HyDraw webinar, but that's our focus is understanding how Library Manager interacts with the drawing application. Let me start from HyDraw CAD, and then we switch to the Library Manager. Anytime we place a symbol in the drawing, and let me just load the Library Explorer on my system. Anytime I was saying I insert a symbol in the drawing, let me take just a check value. And I look at the Property Manager. When we select the symbol, we can see on the right a lot of attributes. So these attributes are defined in the HyDraw Library Manager. Also, the description that we see here is coming from the Library Manager. And we can control the default description coming just by changing something that we will see soon in the Library Manager. Before doing that, of course, when we work with HyDraw CAD and Library Manager, we need to make sure that they both are redirecting to the same path. We open HyDraw CAD and go to Library Path, and we see the folder where we are working. There may be user with SQL database. In their case, it would be a slightly different view, but there is no difference in terms of using Library Manager with a SQL database or an Access database like I'm using now. So this path must be identical in the Library Manager. To view at the Library Manager, we go to the options and go to Library Path, and we make sure that the paths are identical. That means any change we do here will be applicable to the HyDraw CAD. So I was saying that when we insert the symbol, we see standard attributes and the description. Let's understand how this process is working. Library Manager is divided into 5 main parts: components, accessories, external ports, connections, and subsystems. Today, we look more at components. There will be other webinars where we'll understand more about the subsystems. And this month, we have a specific one about subsystems. So today, I will not touch subsystems at all. Components is divided into 2 views. One is the symbol view, and the other is the model data view. Model data view will show you what you have available in your library in terms of model codes. If you just installed HyDraw CAD, you will see maybe a few hundred of components here. In my case, I'm working on building a custom library, so I see a lot of Danfoss model codes. And some cases you may have no data at all here. Symbol view will show you the library structured the same way you have in HyDraw CAD. And if you have more libraries, you will see down here. So pneumatic symbols, Danfoss PVG. I'm using my custom libraries, Sun Hydraulics or custom building blocks. Let's stay with the hydraulic symbols. When you go into a symbol and select it, you will see available model codes for that symbol, and now there's nothing. First, any symbol, if we right click on a symbol, we can see we have 2 options. Delete symbol, it's not something that I want to do, but if by mistake you delete a symbol and you want to collect it back, remember that if you are using a standard HyDraw CAD library, by using this command, update symbol library, you can check for updates, and this utility will verify if your library is up to date with what we have standard in our Fluid Power Tools database. So in this case, if you delete by mistake a standard symbol, you will be able to have it back in your library. I don't want now to do the update. So right click and edit component type. We can see that a symbol is in an application, and we always use hydraulic application, but it can be a different component type, component application, and we have a component type. To have any symbol work in HyDraw CAD, it must belong to a component type. And if you change the component type, let's say that now by mistake I want to make it a cooler. If I go back to the drawing and take the same symbol, now it will be a cooler with the set of attributes linked to the cooler. And of course, that's not what I recommend. You should change component type only if you made a mistake. So this is a check valve screwing cartridge. Okay. And that is how it is. If you have any question during my demonstration, just feel free to post in the question section in GoToWebinar, and I will be happy to complement my explanation. Now let's see where these component types are defined. Let me highlight with a color. Let me take a red color. Red. Okay. So on the left, we have two possibilities, symbol view and model data view. On the right, we have other parts, and we have the component type. So when we click on component types, we have the list of available component type in our database. And if we go to the check valve, screwing cartridge, the one that we are looking at, we can see on the right that we have some attributes. So we have a name. Let's say that you are from Germany and you want to change the standard description into a German one. So we say Rückschlagventil and save, Mit V and save. Now my symbol, when I place this symbol in the drawing, will have the German. Sorry for my misspelling the check valve if there are any German guys attending to this meeting. So let me go back. I don't want to have it with a different description, but we understand how to change the default description just by changing the component type name. Check valve screw in cartridge. I'm not saying that I recommend changing component type names. What is coming by default with HyDraw makes sense, but you can create new component types. So this new command is supposed to help you with creating new component types. A component type must belong to a component group, and we have a list of component groups. If no component group is okay for what you are defining, you go and select a miscellaneous, that's standard. Component group has a different meaning in HyDraw CAD, and basically it can define how the symbol will behave in the drawing application. I make an example for component. I don't want to save these component types now. I make an example of what is controlled by component group. If you look at sleep in symbol, I insert a symbol for a directional control, any symbol here. The fact that this symbol can have a connection on both sides, B side, and it works dynamically like I'm showing here, is related to the fact that this symbol is belonging to a component type that is linked to that particular component group. This is just an example. There are other important component groups, and mainly they have to do with how the HyDraw CAD will talk to MD tools. In any case, when you create a new component type, if you need to, make sure that you select a good component group. Normally, I don't recommend to start a new component type from scratch. It's always easier to make a new component type from something that is similar. So maybe a cooler, and let's call it a cooler 23, and we do a save as. So we create a new component type starting from another one. This is easier because in this case, we already have a lot of attributes coming from the other component type. While if we start a new component type, as you can see, we don't have any design properties. We only have 4 model properties, and later we need to add additional model properties. Let's spend a few words on model properties, and now also let me delete the Cooler 23, which I don't need it. So as you can see, and we stay simple on the check valve, but what applies to the check valve will apply to any other component type. As you can see, the check valve has some design properties, and these attributes are in HyDraw CAD on top on the design requirements. Let me highlight. They are here. Basically, design requirements are those parameters that I need to search my component in the database. So when I search, as you can see, I will have rated flow and rated pressure. Actually, there is also the cracking pressure. This is something that comes from a different place. But in this case, when you type in here 30 liters per minute and you search in the library, it will search only for those items more than 30 liters per minute. So design requirements are defined in the HyDraw Library Manager for the component type. Another important aspect is model properties, and we see something different from what you may have in your library. I see a description French, description German, and note. That's another attribute. So the database is flexible. You can easily customize and add new attributes to your database. To add new properties, you click New, and you can select from a list of available properties in the database. If you don't find that property, you can click Add New and create a new property. Instead of doing that for just one symbol, let me cancel, and let me show you how to add a new property to all the component types in library. By default, HyDraw CAD comes with only one description field, which is basically in English when you use a Fluid Power Tools library. But you may want to have multi-language fields. So let's go to model properties. So we exit from component types with a red cross, and we click model properties. This is the list of available properties in our database. When we select an attribute, we can see that it is defined with a name, data type, pressure, and let's create a new property called description Swedish. Hopefully there are some Swedish guys attending, and I can assign to all component types. Okay. So again, assign, you select all, or you select only those component types you want to apply it. And then we save. Now, this description Swedish will be available for any symbol that I place in the drawing. Description Swedish. And any symbol, and if I change a folder, and let me undo and take any other symbol, it will be the description Swedish. What happens for a symbol that had already been placed in the drawing? This symbol I have not the description Swedish, and we may want to add it in the document. So there is a way to update, and the command is this one. So when we have inconsistency between the attributes linked to a symbol and the database, we use the update command. Update on a selection of symbols. Let me run again. Update on all the symbols, or you can type all and select the entire diagram. HyDraw CAD will ask you what you want to update, and I want to update all. And in this case, it is asking to update the new model properties, display format, and so on. I click update. Now my description Swedish will be available also for the check valve that I have placed here. So no problem if your diagram has been made 1 year ago and you have changed the database structure during that time. With update command, you can synchronize the diagram with the new current database structure. This command will also be able to remove not needed properties in the database. Now, there is another important aspect for properties, because we may want to show some particular properties for the component type. And when I say show some properties, maybe for a check valve is the cracking pressure. And we see that 5 bar is shown for this valve when I add some attributes here. If nothing, this will disappear. And if I put something 20, this is available. And in the display setting, we can show and hide attributes. Display format definition can be done in the drawing environment, but today we don't do in the drawing environment. It can be done in the library manager as well. So if we go back to the library manager, when we see all the list of attributes, we can see that each attribute has a data type. This is very important. Data type is something you must pay attention to. There are numbers. In fact, as you can see, rated pressure. Oh, let me go to the cracking pressure, the one that it was here. Cracking pressure. We have number and pressure, and the library manager has standard units. For the pressure, it is bar. If you work with imperial, you will set to imperial, and the standard will be PSI. So in this case, the unit will be applied to a number data type in the database. That means that when we use the library, the symbol in the drawing, this will show bar, and it will make 20 bar. And the fact that we use number with a unit means that we will be able to use what we have in the system, which is a unit converter. And we also are able to get dual units or automatically convert from bar to PSI or PSI to bar if you need to deliver a diagram made in different units. Now, I was saying I need to control if property is displayed or not. So as you can see, when we select an attribute, we have this small tick box, which is called display in drawing. So when this is enabled, it means that the attribute is not yet displayed. So let's make the example of the description Swedish that I just created. Description, maybe it's the last one. Description Swedish, and I want to make it available. Display in drawing and save. When I set something display in drawing, that does not mean it is already set to be displayed. To display an attribute in the drawing, we need to build a display format. Display format dialog is very similar to the attributes. And in this case, if we look at the cylinder size, we can see that display format is combining 3 different attributes, the bore, rod, and stroke, and with some prefix and suffix. Let's see how it works. Let me search for a cylinder. Double acting, and let me place the cylinder. And let's say that I put a 200 millimeters bore, 1500 millimeter stroke, and the rod is 50. So as you can see, this text is combined by HyDraw CAD. So this definition comes from the library manager. Cylinder size is made of bore with a prefix of phi, followed by rod diameter, prefix of per, stroke, dash, unit at the end. And this is how the display format is combined. Let me create a new display format called the description Swedish. And my description is the linked property is my description Swedish. So the attribute will be visible here in this list because I have enabled that option visible in drawing. Otherwise, it is not here. This is a subset of all the attributes. Here I find only the attributes that are made available for visibility. And maybe prefix is Swedish description is space and save. That's not enough. I need to apply this display format to all the component types that I want. So I can assign to the check valve screen cartridge that I have in the drawing, only to that. Because this display format may not be relevant for any other component type in my drawing. Okay, and save. Now, if I place, if I search again for a check valve, screwing cartridge, double click and place it in the drawing. Now we see the description Swedish. If I type, now that's tricky because I don't know the Swedish. So sorry, I type my name, Carlo. It will be okay also in Swedish. And my description, I can make it visible. SD is Carlo. By default, the description, the new description is set to hide and show. This is how to make it available. Of course, it will not be available for any other component type because I didn't apply the display format, this Swedish description, to other component type. So this is how to build a display format. And we have seen a workflow of creating a property, applying to all the component types, make it visible, and create a display format. The other topic I want to touch today is being able to import from an Excel list. Because we want to be able to manage which properties we have in the drawing, of course, but we want to be able to populate our library in order to find all the components that we need. So I have built an Excel file with a lot of different, that's just an example of files. So you see model codes, model family, description, manufacturer. I have only a couple of manufacturer and cracking pressure, seal type, poppet, rated pressure, and tighten and torque. You may already have this list, or you may build this list in the way you want. So let me try to import some components. So for instance, if you are familiar with HyDraw, here I have CV8-20 and CV10-20. Plus I have some check valves from Eaton and a relief valve from HyDraw. Let me just import the CV8-20 and CV10-20. And let me save it, that's not a problem. So I know that the symbol is the check valve. So I want to import model data and link. These three commands are very important. Link existing model means HyDraw will look in the database if you have already some check valves, but I don't have check valves available now. So I want to, instead of creating new model, which means manually I will need to set up my model code description manufacturer, and this is not handy at all because you need to do manually one by one. I want to massively import model data from my Excel file. The Excel file may have several different sheets. I want to add new models by model code and click next. My Excel file has a lot of headers and I want to import all, but maybe the pressure and minimum pressure and max pressure are not relevant for the check valve. And I click next. Now I can map the equivalent properties. If your column name is identical to the database, then it's fine. You will not need to do the mapping. Next time, HyDraw Library Manager will remember the mapping you have made. So now let me map model code, model family, and that's the cracking pressure. That's the seal type. That's the rated pressure, and that's the rated flow. That's installation torque, steel. That's installation torque, aluminum, and that's cavity. Mapped. The column component type is not relevant here because we are importing a list directly to the symbol. So the component type will come from the symbol itself. Next. Now Library Manager is reading the Excel file. And the Excel file may have hundreds, thousands, of course. You can prepare a small set of files and we'll list all the components in the Excel file. I just can sort by model family and take all the HyDraw CV10 and I can import. And yes, it is saying that the seal type is not linked, so later I will link. I click OK and still it will be importing. When it's done, I just click close. And as you can see now, I have a big list of check valves linked here. So that message says that and as you can see, when you select, you have a list of attributes linked to that component. I realized that the seal type was not available in my component. So let me go back to my model properties and search the seal type, and make it available to the check valve screwing cartridge and save. Now I use the same Excel file, but not from here, from model data view, to import the same file and the same sheet. I don't want to add new models. I want to update existing models by model code. So now I always have headers, and I want to just select the model code and the seal type, nothing else. Next. Next. We have just the attributes that I need. I select all, Control A, select all, and import. Yes. Close. Now my check valves, and let me filter by model family, CV. My check valve will have also the seal type, Puna N. So we have also the possibility to import from Excel to update massively information. From the library manager, we can export the list of components. So by clicking export, now library manager will create me an Excel file. Let me call it CV HyDraw. Okay. And if I open that file, let me find it. Check valve HyDraw. I will have a list of all the attributes in my, here it is, component type, model code, description, and also I have the symbol name. Last, let's see how this information will help in HyDraw CAD. So let's make an example. Let's search for the component in my local database for my CV and search. I want to search, and it is finding two model families. I can just double click on the symbol. And now HyDraw CAD will ask me which item I want for that, that symbol. So as you can see, when you insert the family, HyDraw CAD will show me the available model codes for that family, and you can sort by cracking pressure, and you can select the one that you want, and you can click insert. So in this case, from the family, you are finding exactly the model code that you need. So in this case, I do again. I'm searching for the CV. It's finding families. Double click on the symbol, and the HyDraw CAD will give you the list of components, always out of, and you will be able to select. It will work in your system. Now I'm running with a lower resolution that than my screen is accepting.